So this video is on changing fractions into decimals. So we have the review here. Write each fraction or mixed number as a decimal. Use a bar to show a repeating decimal. So these are the problems from the review that we already did. This is 3 divided by 10. It's a fraction, but whenever you have a fraction, it's dividing. So it's 3 divided by 10. So if I wanted to write this as a decimal, I'd have to divide. So the 3 goes on the inside, the top number goes on the inside, divided by 10. Here 10 goes into 3 0 times. So what I have to do is add a 0. 10 goes into 30 3 times. And we don't have any remainder, so we're done. So the answer to the first one is 0.3. The second one is similar, 2 divided by 5. So I have to put a point up here and I add a 0. So 5 goes into 2 0 times, and 5 goes into 20 4 times. The next one we're going to divide again. You have to remember here that the negative has to be on your answer, but I'm going to leave the negative out when I divide. So 6 divided by 5. 6 doesn't go into 5, so I have to add a 0. When I add a 0, how many times does 6 go into 50? You kind of have to know your timetable. So 6 times 6 is 36, so that's not big enough. 6 times 7 is 42. That's getting close, but we can go one more to 6 times 8. 6 times 8 is 48, so it goes into 50 8 times, and we'd have 2 left over. So since we have a 2 left over, we have to add another 0. This is different from if I was writing it as a fraction, so I have to add a 0. So I add a 0 and I bring that down and I say, well, how many times does 6 go into 20? 6 goes into 20 3 times. So I put 20 on the 18. 3 times 6 times 3 is 18. Let me back up. Put 18 under 20, and I get 2 left over. If you remember, last time we did it, we had 2 left over. So then I'd add another 0 and bring that down and put a 0 here, and then 6 goes into 20 3 times, and I get 18 again, and another 2, and it keeps going and going. So whenever we have a repeating decimal like that 3 keeps repeating, we put a bar over the number. So it was 0.833333. I'm putting a bar over the 3 to say that 3 repeats. I only put it over the 3, not over the 8. And then the last thing is you got to remember that it's a negative. We already did number 7, so I'm going to skip that. Number 7 was negative 7.4 repeating. If I do one more, let's do an example. So I'm going to clear this off the page and do an example where I have 51 over 60. And I want to write this as a decimal. So 51, 60 goes into 51 how many times? Well, 60 doesn't go into 51, so that's a 0. And I have to put a point, and I add a 0. So I'm going to add a 0 here. So how many times does 60 go into 510? Well, 60 probably goes into 510 at least 5 times. I'm going to try 6 times. Or 7. I'll make it 8 times. So I'll try 8 and see if that's big enough. So 6 times, 8 times 0 is 0. Then 6 times 8 is 48. So now I got 510 minus 480. So I get a 0. Here I could borrow, so this would be 8 minus 11 is 3. So it's 30. So I add a 0 here and I bring it down. And I get 300. How many times does 60 go into 300? So I know 6 times 5 is 30, so I'm going to try 5. So I put a 5 here. And 5 times 0 is 0. 5 times 6 is 30, so we get 300. And we get 0.85. So that's turning fractions into a decimal. Next we have to compare them, but I'm going to stop here and make a second.